I asked 20 of my female friends if they were capital R'd, and here's my story. Hi, I designed the anti-capital R belts, which are basically belts that make it hard for somebody to pull down your pants and SA or capital R you. There are links in the description and in the comments for my tutorials on how to make them and related videos. Trigger warning. This is heavy stuff, heavier than any of my other videos. There are stories of capital R, i.e. RAPE. I don't really draw it out, but I will be going over some of the specifics of some of the stories of my friends. There will also be statistics on capital R, my own and various studies. All of this is marked down in the timestamps and in the comments, in case you need to skip around or avoid a certain section. So on with the story. How did I get here? Before about 2 years ago, I didn't think about capital R that much. It happened, but I assumed probably only to 1 or 2 people I knew. Maybe it happened more in poorer neighborhoods or to those that really partied a lot, but it wasn't really something to be concerned with. Then one of my closest friends revealed that it had happened to her. She was drugged by someone she assumed to be a friend. She was drugged enough that she couldn't move, but she wasn't knocked out, so she experienced all of it. After that, I decided to look up the stats on capital R because it was just a fluke, right? I think it was some kind of self-preservation. You want to feel safe, so you assume it's a fluke or something, and you want the stats to back that up. Now, when I was researching, I looked at the American statistics because I live in the USA, and it had a lot more data than many other countries. One of the first ones I ran into was the one from the Rainn website, which is the Capital R Abuse and Incest National Network. It states about 1 out of 6, or 17.6% of American women have been the victims of attempted or completed capital R in her lifetime. And the same goes for 3%, or 1 in 33 men. The problem with this statistic is that that's from a survey from 1998. And while I doubt the true percentages of capital R have changed that much, back then people thought about capital R a lot less. When you don't think about it as much, things that may have happened to you, you forget as just that weird night. Another problem with the survey is their definition of capital R, which is forced vaginal, oral, and anal intercourse. That doesn't account for if someone is unconscious due to alcohol or being drugged. That also doesn't account for somebody just freezing up. So the definition is also incorrect, which may have led fewer people to state that they had been capital R'd. Now, a newer version that's also cited a lot is that it's 1 in 5 women, and that's from the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey. In their 2015 survey, it stated that 21.3% of women, which is over 1 in 5 women, and 2.6% of men in the United States experience completed or attempted capital R during their lifetime. The far less common statistic is from their 2016-2017 report, in which they state 1 in 4 women, about 26.8%, in the United States reported capital R victimization at some point in her lifetime, and about 1 in 26 men, or 3.8%, did the same. Consent varies from state to state and country to country. In these studies, consent does not include coercion, where you don't want to, but they wear you down, or they're not quite threat, they're kind of borderline threats maybe. They also don't include being intentionally deceived, where you guys agree that he's going to wear a condom and he takes it off and you don't realize, or going beyond what has been consented to, i.e. doing anal when maybe only vaginal was consented to, or vice versa. People being made to penetrate somebody else is also not considered capital R in these studies. If you define these scenarios as capital R, then the rates of capital R will go up higher than what the statistics predicted. Now, these studies also go into a lot of other things: sexual violence, unwanted sexual contact, stalking, a lot of things, but I'm just going to cover the capital R. Now, they haven't done a newer report. They haven't done a report after the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement started at the end of 2017, in October, picking up steam after that, but most people hadn't really heard about it until 2018, which is unfortunately after this survey, and they have yet to do another more recent survey. So part of me wonders if these statistics actually aren't worse than this last report. I haven't found any other major reports, or at least ones that are cited as much as these ones. Countries define capital R in very different ways. Sometimes they only have statistics on who reports. The percentage of people who are capital R that actually report is often very small, so those are not good indicators. Maybe you think that the Americans have a higher or lower rate than the rest of the world. That's up to you. You can put in your own numbers. But still, those are just statistics. They affect other people, not me, not my friends. So to prove that to myself, I asked some of my female friends. I said to them, hey, this happened to a really close friend of mine. Did anything like that happen to you? I asked 20 female friends after my one friend told me. Of the 20 friends, 10 said yes, they'd been capital R'd. Most of them lived in the suburbs. Most, while not living in super wealthy areas, did not live in poor areas. They didn't have adult service jobs. They didn't look, dress, or act like the people you'd expect it happening to. They were just my friends from high school who had gone into the military, or who I met at work, or maybe some social gathering, or while I was living in other states. So, how did it happen? Why did it happen? Trigger warning, this is where I go into more detail about my friends' individual stories. Drugging was a bigger part than I anticipated. And I don't mean they had too much alcohol. I mean, you have one beer, or you drink some juice or hot cocoa, and you pass out or you're paralyzed. So capital R due to drugging happened to 5 out of the 10 women. And who were they capital R'd by? For 7 out of 10 of them, it was a friend. Not a family member, boyfriend, husband, or coworker. It was a friend that they never suspected and who often had either a girlfriend or a wife. Who else? A cousin, a youth pastor at church, a husband, coworkers in the military,
A stranger at a bar.
and sometimes their mom's boyfriend. Ages it happened, 4 out of 10 had it happen as children, 8 of the 10 had it as adults. And as you can tell, 2 of them it happened both as children and as an adult. Anyways, after hearing all of that, I had intense anxiety attacks, paranoia for about 5 months. And 2 years later, I'm significantly better than before, but very, very cautious. I don't ask people anymore if they've had it happen to them. I've got enough stories that will haunt me now. It does come up though. And I have had actually 2 men tell me about their experience. One was attempted by a mom's boyfriend, and the other when he was drunk and taken to a woman's house where his friends thought he'd be safe. So all of that made me feel really, really unsafe. So I started looking for ways to feel safer, and I looked up anti-capital R and anti-SA weapons for women. And as you may know in one of my previous videos, the tech solutions often sucked. They don't work if you're unconscious, which many of my friends were at the time it happened. And then also many of these so-called options don't actually exist. They were ideas somebody came up with and never really created, or at least never got to market, but the media went crazy anyways. One thing I did note with them was that many of the press reports got mad at these inventions. Why? Well, some say we just need to focus on societal change instead, basically teaching kids in school and people not to do it. I'm all for societal change and teaching men and women not to capital R or SA each other. But that is going to take a lot of time that I'd have to be living in fear. Even if every student who graduated in America from this point on had a perfect knowledge of capital R, SA, and wouldn't do it, well, I'm still out here working and hanging out with people my age and older who didn't have that education. There are some great changes. The US military is now finally changing its SA reporting after decades of horrifying reports. The structural changes, education, and evolution in mindsets have really done a lot, even in just the last decade. But we have so far to go, and I just can't wait that long to feel safe. Another reason why the media criticizes these tech solutions is that they put the onus on women, which I'm not disagreeing with. However, half the women I know carry pepper spray and a self-defense weapon, which again don't work in many situations. And no one really writes articles saying that we need to get rid of them, even though they also put the onus on women. Women obviously shouldn't have to take these precautions, but giving them no options and telling them to wait for social change is honestly not going to help them when if it happens. They should be allowed to defend themselves. So when I created the bill, It took me a few tries and a few months. Eventually, I designed something that was made out of things that existed and that would protect me in case I froze, couldn't move, or was unconscious. I'm not saying my belts are perfect and will work 100% of the time, but after having anxiety for so long every time I walked outside, I could finally breathe. And I don't have to be alert every second walking around. I could just enjoy the wind, a hike, a party, friends, stepping out of the car when I park without my brain being like, be alert, somebody could be trying something. Keep your eyes on him, he could try something. It's awful and draining, being vigilant and wary every step you take. And now I don't feel like I have to. When I have my belt on, I don't need to worry. If I'm attacked on the streets, they're going to have a hard time getting them off and probably give up and run away. And side note, I hate when I hear, well, they'll just go to the next person. Like, if you don't let them do it to you, then someone else is going to get hurt in your place. That's a very concerning attitude. They might go to another person, or they might go, dang, it's harder to do than I thought. Maybe I won't do it. It's harder to do it. It takes more time and effort, and they have an increased risk of getting caught. Maybe they'll stop doing it, or maybe do it less if more of their would-be victims put them in a more uncomfortable situation. If I'm attacked by a friend or someone I know, which is much more likely than random strangers, same thing. It's now harder to do and not worth the effort. And if they do break through, I'll have more evidence I can use against them. Something, either my pants or my belt, has to get broken or ripped. The fear of having evidence against them may stop them. The victim can use the evidence in their reports, resulting in more attackers going to jail, hopefully scaring off even more of them. So I'm going to keep wearing my belt, especially when I'm going to a friend's house or anywhere I feel I need to for my mental health or to quell that anxiety, for my physical health, and to make it harder so that attackers think twice. Is it really worth the effort to attack me or anyone else that may be wearing these? Obviously, I worry a little bit that the news articles will berate and rebuke this invention the same way they have done to the previous ones, which is why I don't show my face. But one thing that does give me some hope is if you go to YouTube and look at the comments, most people there want these inventions and products. So maybe I won't get so much hate there. And even if I do, you can still go make these yourself. You don't have to wait for me to make this product, bring it to market, and sell it. It's a cheap and pretty easy thing to make yourself. All right, enough with that. A friend and I also came up with 4 tips on how to report a crime if you fear the justice system. It can be used for any crime, but was made with SA in mind, because no matter what you do, there's always a chance it could happen to you or someone you know, and it really helps to have a good way of reporting it. The belt and any other measure will not work 100% of the time in 100% of situations for 100% of people. You or your friend or family may need to report, and you might be in a toxic environment that doesn't care or worse, retaliates against victims, i.e., the military, universities, police, and generally just planet Earth. This is my best attempt at a comprehensive strategy so that you don't have to go through what my friends had to go through when they reported. So I'd say check it out. It's best to know this stuff before it happens to you or someone you care about. Well, that was long, but that's how I got here and why I made the belts and the tips for reporting, as well as my logic and opinions. Thanks for listening, and let me know what you think. Now, with all my videos on my channel, feel free to share them. You can put them on your own channel or make your own take on these designs. All I ask is that you add a link or so to my channel and or other videos, just so that as I make these videos, your audience can see the other options, the other videos, so they don't have to go around the internet trying to find the rest of this. I hate that. So please leave the links in the description or in a comment that you pin to the top. And leave the comments on because I'd love to see what your audience thinks.